The Trump administration is still taking heat for its refusal to bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a member of the MS-13 gang who immigrated to the United States illegally, and he came back into the country. But this is in response to the media firestorm. We see the Tennessee state law enforcement. They've released body cam footage of a 2022 traffic stop involving Garcia. Now, defenders of Garcia say that the traffic stop report does not mention anything about human trafficking. However, Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security Tricia McLaughlin thinks otherwise.
This is textbook human trafficking. I'll remind viewers that there are 8 other individuals in this car that Kilmar Abrego Garcia was driving. They were driving allegedly from Texas to Maryland. That's a 3-day journey. Not a single piece of luggage in that vehicle. That screams of human trafficking. But I also want to remind viewers that in 2019, Kilmar Abrego Garcia was arrested. He was arrested with multiple other members of MS-13. He was decked out in MS-13 symbols. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, which is MS-13's logo and slogan. And further, he had drugs and rolls of cash on him. And you mentioned earlier in this segment how he was had written testimony by his wife that she was detained by him, abused by him, psychologically abusing his own children and her children. This is no innocent Maryland man.
So here to break this down for us is independent journalist and host of the Breanna Morello show. Breanna is so kind to come here in studio with us. But Breanna, when we look at this story, how is this the story that Democrats are willing to fight for? How is this the one thing that has captivated all of their attention and all of these media headlines right now?
It's pretty strange because one would think this would not be the person they're putting on a pedestal when it comes to this immigration topic. Obviously, they're trying to win over their voter base so that they feel a little bit more passionate about this argument, because many people are on the fence or they're swinging with President Trump these days. You've seen it based on the polls when it comes to immigration. And I just think it's so crazy that they're picking this person to go out there and throw their whole support behind. It makes me wonder, did they actually understand what he was doing or what he was accused of in the past? Or do they just find one person, think that they could win over the American people with him and didn't do any research? I mean, I just don't even understand what's going on here with them.
So my question here, Breanna, is are they going to learn from this? Because it's very clear, I don't think it's working, right? I mean, it's clear from polling, it's clear from some of their reaction. They pulled back a little bit, but this is still the story. This is still the guy. Their narrative hasn't changed. So are they going to learn or not?
I don't think they're going to learn. I mean, they're still referring to him as Maryland Man, as the rest of us make fun of him or make fun of them for doing just that. I think Democrats haven't fallen to their low yet, even though the polls are horrendous for them, which is usually favorable for them. So it's probably even lower than what we're seeing. They just don't seem to understand that they've hit rock bottom yet. And so I think it's just going to go in further.
So isn't that a good thing?
For us, yeah. Maybe not so much for them.
You have so many independent scoops that you're getting these days. So I want to highlight one of them because you have some stuff for immigration specifically, but involving the TSA as well.
It's so crazy, but I had to sue TSA under the Biden administration to obtain records. As I know many of you guys understand, we were all very critical about illegal aliens boarding on commercial flights without IDs. So I wanted to know what the process was for these individuals. I submitted a FOIA request. Unfortunately, Joe Biden isn't the most transparent individual ever, neither is his administration. They didn't let me have access to any of the information. In fact, they lied to my lawyer and said that these documents didn't exist. All of a sudden, President Trump takes over the White House, and magically, these documents are being sent to my legal team. So we just yesterday received documents, and it's in regards to releasing convicted sex offenders. So an illegal alien comes in, they're releasing these sex offenders back into our country. And when you read the documents, it's pretty insane. They're literally requiring that these illegal aliens enroll in some sexual deviance course within the first 14 days of their arrival and release into the United States. They also have another 7 days to register as sex offenders in the United States. So Joe Biden and whoever else was running the White House knowingly brought in sex offenders into our country and released them into our population. We don't even know how many of those individuals actually complied and even registered as sex offenders.
Is there any hope that something is done about this from the Trump administration? I mean, obviously they're concerned and they're releasing the documents.
Yeah, I think they're really concerned. I think that they're obviously doing more vetting in all of this, and the people who probably were released are probably the top priority for ICE right now. I haven't heard anything directly from the administration. I just know that they're really going after those who are the most violent and the most egregious first. So I do hope that they get down this list. But again, these people, I mean, if you committed these crimes in previous countries, you're coming here, you're probably going to recommit those crimes again, especially because you broke one of our laws coming into our country in the first place.
Now, you have another story that you put out, and I want to shift our attention now to the FBI for the rest of the time that we have, because you had a story on X yesterday about a special agent with the FBI who was placed on terminal leave, and you said it was the main censorship liaison between the FBI and the social media companies. Interestingly enough, for the 2020 election. Break that down for us.
Yes, many people at home know Elvis Chan is a very familiar name. He was the FBI agent who was like the king of censorship. So he was going around to all of these big companies like Facebook and trying to get them to suppress the Hunter Biden laptop story. Well, it looks like he's been placed on terminal leave according to multiple sources. I've asked the FBI to confirm it. They can't because it's personal information. They're not allowed to do just that. But terminal leave, before you get really excited, let me explain what that is. Terminal leave potentially means he's worked there for 19 years and 8 months. So he could use all of his benefits up currently, let that play out. When he hits his 20th year, he could file for retirement and get all those perks. So it's what the FBI does when they want to push people out. I've seen it used quite often. Unfortunately, though, yes, he might not be with the agency in a couple of months from now, but he's going to get benefits thanks to taxpayers, of course.
Is there anything that they can look at in terms of him violating law?
I hope that they can. It's very difficult, though, to probably nail him on any of that stuff because I don't know exactly. I mean, they could maybe do some type of election interference argument with that. But again, he's based in San Francisco. So the jury pool, I'm sure, will be very left-leaning.
So what are we going to do about the 2020 election? Are we actually going to get any of these answers, like much to this question?
I hope so. I hear it's a top priority for the new administration to get these answers that we need. I'm also hearing that there's a lot being done still behind the scenes about Crossfire Hurricane, so we might get answers there, but I don't want to oversell anyone on that because we've seen it time and time again. Indictments are coming and they never came. So I'll wait until I see some evidence.
I mean, certainly we have people in charge who know the basic facts and more about what happened. So I hope we see more in the coming days. What about larger changes in the FBI that are necessary? Are you seeing any evidence of that occurring?
The FBI, let's just say Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino, they've got their work cut out for them. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, in my dealings with the FBI, I've witnessed as they are promoting those who are biased and don't like President Trump, and they didn't like him. And so what they did is they maneuvered these people in key places. And unfortunately, you can't just fire them because they will sue, and you have to defend why you fired them, especially if they've been there for 15, 20 years. So they've got their work cut out for them. I'm told that there's more bad people within the FBI than good people. And according to my sources, Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, Director Kash Patel are working very, very hard at purging out the bad people. As we just heard from the CNN and the Washington Post, it looks like those FBI agents who took a knee during the 2020 protests, that they've been demoted. I think that's the way to go about this, is demoting them first and forcing them out because they're not going to want to take these less desirable roles. So I think that's the strategy going out there right now. But we're not going to hear about all the maneuvers. I heard from my sources before Kash Patel was sworn in that he was going to purge out a lot of these individuals and he was going to try to put them in less desirable locations and make them relocate. I can't even confirm that because they can't even comment on people's personal information. And so that's constantly the defense that kind of gets thrown up and tossed our way as journalists. But I'm told that they're doing everything that they can behind the scenes to make this possible.
When we look at whistleblowers, are they going to make it an environment, at least, where people can come forward and actually tell the American people what needs to be going on? Because right now, we constantly have Steve Friend on this show. We know Garrett O'Boyle back there. But if they aren't even going to be made whole into the agencies, then what if you're just sitting there and saying, oh, I have some information, I want to come forward at this point in time?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's really hard for me to tell people to become whistleblowers, right? Because we've seen the treatment of both of these individuals who are great men who served this country proudly, and they did us a great service by coming forward and reporting what they witnessed. And although the White House says, and actually it was Chad Prather who went out there and asked this question to the White House press secretary, and although she said she can't comment on those personal cases, she did say that the White House wants whistleblowers to come forward. But I don't understand how you encourage whistleblowers to come forward when the reality of it is people are watching what happened to Steve Friend, Garrett O'Boyle, and Kyle Seraphin. They're seeing their poor treatment. If I'm in the FBI, I'm not coming forward reporting anything because I see how poorly you've treated these guys. The reality of it is it doesn't just affect their jobs, it also affects the jobs of their spouses. You know, I know a lot of these whistleblowers, when they come forward, their spouses magically lose their jobs at whatever field they are. And so when people are watching this at home and they want to come forward and report something, they're not going to do it. And that's just the reality. You know, I tell people all the time, if you have a tip, send it to me. I'll protect you. I will go to prison for you. I will take any legal case I have to take on, because it's a really strange situation we're in right now. And also, I want to bring some attention to this. I know the White House is dealing with the leakers, and they're trying their very best to push back on leakers. We just heard last week that the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, unfortunately, is looking to potentially subpoena journalists to find out who their sources are on a lot of these stories. That makes me concerned because although I do understand why they want to do it, the next administration, if we allow this to happen, if it's a Democrat, they might start going after us.
Yeah, that is concerning because, I mean, look, leaking is part of the deal. I mean, it's how news operates. So you would think that the administration would be able to figure out how to use that to their advantage. And there's plenty of ways to punish people, taking away access, et cetera, right, outside of that. I do want to say about the FBI, it certainly, we are very concerned with what happens to these whistleblowers. We have them on the shows often. At the same time, you know, they're owed some time at the FBI. It's a complicated situation, and I grant them that. So I kind of feel, I wonder if you feel the same way. It's sort of a trust but verify, you know, or really the opposite. It's like verify then trust. So the time is owed to people like, I mean, Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. But, you know, suffice it to say, we're all watching.
Yeah, and I think we could help out Garrett O'Boyle because he still is an FBI employee. He's just unpaid right now. So we could just reinstate his pay. If they need more time to sift through the information, all due respect, do what you have to do. But the reality is Garrett O'Boyle has a family, and so does Steve Friend, but Steve Friend's no longer employed by the FBI. So the easiest option would be to reinstate his pay, give him his back pay, Garrett O'Boyle, and take the time you need to go through all of this. You know, they've put these guys through hell. The things they've had to go through, it's awful. So I think that's the easiest approach to this. And I know Garrett O'Boyle has pointed out that there's actual legal means for Kash Patel to make that call himself. So I hope, and I've said this to his team, I hope they go about doing that, because if you need to wait, I understand. There's a lot of information they have to go through, but you got to give him back his pay.
What has this journey been like for you going through the independent journalist route? You have so many different updates that you're putting out on X all the time. I don't even know when you sleep because you're constantly working.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, it's been amazing. I obviously work in the corporate media, leaving and doing this little venture on my own. It's been quite the venture, but I'm covering the stories that my old bosses would never let me cover. You know, I had the honor of covering that story. Was the first one to break it about Tulsi Gabbard being added to a TSA terror watch list. I broke that story. My old coworkers, they had that story before me. I beat them to it because they didn't want to release it since it was so kind of attacking the Biden administration, which is strange because it's an alleged conservative media outlet. But the reality is this is what independent journalism does. All of our outlets, like we don't have an alliance with the Biden administration or any of these other things. It's literally just getting the information in front of the American people, and that's what I think is so important. I think that's the reason why independent journalism will change this country.
Well, if we ever, for some reason, don't give you credit, you just holler, and we'll make sure we do, because it's really important in this ecosystem that people get credit when they're doing independent journalism, and it's something that I care about deeply. As you've done this, I mean, as you've sort of risen on your own, what are some of the biggest challenges you've faced?
I guess maybe the departments, people that just don't want to give you comment, they don't respect you enough. You know, I've done great stories where it's got millions of views, and these people who have only had their alliance, these comms team with mainstream journalists, they think that they could just kind of laugh you off. And so I enjoy pushing back and making their day hell by breaking the story, repeatedly saying they did not want to respond to comment, of course, and then allowing the people give them the backlash because, they think they're above us. They think they don't have to respond to independent journalists. But the reality is we have a much bigger platform than CNN or MSNBC.
You absolutely do. Give your Twitter handle, or on X, I should say.
It's at Breanna Morello.
I'm sure everybody in our audience is already following, but if they don't, go follow Breanna.